Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown. And today we're going to go back in history, or way back in history, to the disappearance of a little 6-year-old boy by the name of Etan Patz. Now, he like became one of the milk carton kids. And it really changed a lot of America in the way they thought about the safety of children. Along with Johnny Gosh, the little boy who went missing while he was delivering papers, Etan Patz was only walking a couple blocks to the school bus stop when he disappeared. And that just freaked everybody out. And that was the beginning of, oh, maybe it's not safe to let our children walk freely in society because there are bad people out there who can snatch them up at a moment's notice. Oh, hold on a second. If you're wondering why I'm talking funny, I burnt my mouth with coffee this morning, and it's like I've got a fat mouth right here. So if I sound really weird, that's why. I didn't get one of those lip injections, but it's like really swollen. But I'm going to carry on and try not to sound too terrible. Before I say hello to everybody who's in the chat room, because there are a lot of people in the chat room, and I'm really interested in seeing, before I start the analysis of the case, what your basic thoughts are. And I'll explain this in a minute. Before I do that, I just want to give you the background of what happened with this little boy, because of course not everybody is familiar with this case. I'm going to use my fine Wikipedia page, and people wonder why I do that. It's because everything is condensed, and when I'm looking for notes to have there available for me to go from different aspects of the case, I want something that I can use easily and then elaborate on. So that's why I use it. Etan Patz was an American boy who was 6 years old on May 25th, 1979, when he disappeared on the way to his school bus stop in the Soho neighborhood of Lower Manhattan. That's in New York City. His disappearance helped launch the missing children movement, which included new legislation and new methods for tracking down missing children. Okay, so, and he was on the milk cartons. Now, what happened? I want to show you the 3 suspects that ever came up in this little child's case. I'm going to put them behind me. Okay, now, what happened with the little boy was, let me just go back here. This is essentially what happened. His mother had always walked with him to the bus stop, but he was 6 years old and he said, I want to do it on my own. So that morning, she finally gave in. He had a $1 bill with him. And I'll explain the whole meaning of this $1 bill later, because I think this is extremely important in this case. And I think it's been heavily ignored. He had a $1 bill that he had earned. And he told his mother he wanted to buy a soda with it. And there is just past the bus stop. I'm going to show you the general picture here. This is his home right here. And he walks up here, and he walks up here, and he walks up here. And this is the bus stop. Okay. Up here is a bodega, which is where he would buy the soda. Okay. So he's here. His mother looks out. She takes him downstairs. Okay. She takes him downstairs and she watches him walk up here to about a block away. Now, you see this lovely picture here of her looking out on the balcony. If she stood on the balcony, she could have seen the bus stop. And she regrets forever that she didn't do this, because what happened was she got upstairs and she had 2 other children, and then she went and took care of the children that were in the house and did not see him go the next block up the street. So she only saw the first block. And this is the first block. And so she knows nothing after this. And then he said he wanted to go up here. This is the school bus stop, and this will be the bodega where he would spend his $1 to buy a soda. Okay, that's the basic thing on this. Now, there are have only ever been 3 suspects in the case. All right. This guy is, this is Jose Ramos. This guy is Pedro Hernandez. And this guy, I'm not going to give his name. He's just a Jamaican dude who lives on that street. And I'll explain how he became a suspect in this case. Okay. These 2 guys definitely have, they got some criminal history. So their names are in criminal databanks. And this guy, I don't want to use his name just because I don't want to do that to him if he's not done anything that we should be pointing at. But those are basically the 3 suspects. So the kid disappears, just walking to the school bus stop, vanishes. He was never found. Body never found. Okay? Never. I will explain how each one of these guys became a suspect and how this guy, Pedro Hernandez, he was the one that, have I got his name right? Or was it, hold on, let me check. Be sure I got his name right. Hold on a second. Yeah, it is Hernandez. I'm going to say, suddenly I'm thinking Fernandez. No, it is Pedro Hernandez. Okay, so he eventually became a suspect and he was convicted. I'm going to tell you that now, but that was like almost 37 years later, he got convicted. So long time later. And we're going to go through the whole thing, but I just wanted to lay that out before I say hello to everybody in the chat room and see what your thoughts are before my analysis, because I think that'll be fun. And before I go on with saying hello to everybody, let me just do my little pitch here. If you would like to be in the chat room, my chat room is patron only. It's $5 a month. You come to all the live shows. We also have a weekly patron chat. And I also want to let you know, because this is new, because I have more subscribers than I used to, my comments on YouTube are getting really a lot. I always try to answer people anyway, but at some point you just can't do it. So if you become a patron, you'll have a special place to ask questions about the cases that we're discussing, as opposed to just putting your comment on YouTube. So it's a benefit. You can also, you don't have to do that. You can just subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, share in your true crime groups. And if you'd like to support the channel another way, books are below. And also you can hit the little $sign and do a one-time support of the channel. Much appreciated. This is an educational channel, and I hope to continue to educate. I do just more things in the future. Okay, now I'm going to go to saying hello to everybody and see what your thoughts are before I analyze this case. I'm real curious about this. Oh, wait a minute. Let me get the background to the background I want, which is the 3 guys. Okay. Yeah, the 3 guys. All right. Now, a really strange feeling. I'm having real trouble trying to get my mouth to move properly. It's like going to the dentist, except I haven't been. I just burnt myself on that coffee this morning. It was very hot. Don't do that. All right. So let's see who is here. All right. We have, okay, so I'm going to say hello, and I'm going to see some of the comments on who people think. Lila says, hi, Lila. And Benny is here, because Benny is one of my top analyzers. I am here too. I put my money on Ramos, this guy, as the likely culprit, not the guy that got convicted, Ramos. I think Hernandez was sentenced on a false confession. Interesting. All right. Then let's see who we got. Miss Stella is here. Okay. So Benny's going to give his explanation here. Pat, I think you will become. I think you will. Oh, agree with Benny, because a confession of a person with a 70 IQ, and I will discuss the issues of IQ that I have issues with. After more than an hour's interrogation, actually it was 6 hours of interrogation, is probably not based on evidence. And the evidence issue is very important here. So I will agree with you on that, Benny, about the evidence. But does that mean his confession is not accurate or true? He says, let's hear you analyze. I'm excited. Well, good. All right. So now let's see. Angela is here. Marion is here. Ariel is here. Okay, let me look at the thing off here. Okay, let's see. Let's see. I think, okay, Martin is here from England. Hello. Ariel, did I just say Ariel? Thanks for doing a live even with the holidays. Yeah, I'm trying to do it right before the holidays so that I don't have to do murder shows on Christmas, which I thought was kind of not right. So I'm going to post nothing this weekend. I'll post Christmas. Let's see. Oh, Maria's here. Let's see. Marzana is here. And she's that's very nice. Thank you for doing these lives at different times. I try. It's tough. The majority of my people are in the U.S., but I also have great people from the U.K. and from Europe, and also from Australia, New Zealand, and a few other places in the world. And I feel so bad because I want to do, especially when I'm doing cases about that location, which I like doing other countries' cases. The timing really sucks. I mean, it's really hard to do. Ms. Leah's here. Grandma Tat is here. Okay. You're being very coy. Hi, everyone. I definitely lean toward one more than the other. Oh, I'm so curious, but I want to hear what Pat has to say regarding any actual evidence. Interesting. Molly is here, and are you freezing? Oh, you are you are frozen in Ohio. You're getting a white Christmas, maybe at least. Here in Maryland, as we usually do, we get the wet and crappy Christmas. That's all we ever get. And then somewhere in March, we have this big, huge blizzard, and we're like, could you back it up to Christmas? But we don't. All right. Let's see. Lisa S. is here. Corey is here. Let's see who else is here. Linda P. is here. You're new to the live. Woohoo. Yes, indeed. That's fantastic. Reticent Robin is here, who is doing her cleaning. That's a good idea. Very good idea. I wish somebody would do that for me at my house. Not me. I don't clean. I really don't. I hate cleaning. I suck at it. All right. Let's see who else is here. Did I say Molly is here? Oh, Molly. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Now I start getting to the point where I start repeating things because I can't remember who I just said. So if Mary is here, Lisa N is here, Sandra is here. I'm trying to see if anybody else is. Benny says, am I affected by the winter storm? It's just rainy and crappy. No, we're not. And Lisa S says, you can hear me. Good. Thank you. What? Okay. Sandra says, I can't hear or see you. Oh, wait, I got you now. Well, wait a minute. Maybe I should put the mic closer. Is this better? Is it clear now? Oh my God, I didn't even ask that. That sucks. I forgot to do it. And let's see. Gretchen is here. Kelly is here. Maria is here. I don't see anybody else with a thought on who done did it. Okay, hold on a second. I'm not gonna go into your further thoughts, Benny, but because Mary's tired from Christmas preparations. All right. Lisa says this, which is interesting. I'm always very nervous of suspects with low IQ, as I know how vulnerable my low IQ son is and how he would give into any pressure to please someone. Good point. That is always a problem because they're person who is a little less able to deal with incoming information may easily just cooperate or misunderstand or misrepresent and do a whole bunch of things. So that is always a concern. And one of the things that's very important is when you're doing investigations and interrogations, you want to have people who are aware of these things. And that's why it's also very important that every interrogation or interview be recorded so you can see whether the detectives are leading the suspect into saying things, suggesting things, and doing things. I mean, there's nothing wrong with trying to get them to say things, because that's one of the things about interrogations. You're trying to get people to give up information, but you have to be very careful how you do it. It's very important that you don't plant the idea in their head and encourage them that if you say this will happen, like you can get to go home, things like that. You have to be very careful of swaying things. And if they say this, but you'd rather have them say that, you're pushing them here. You can't do that. And that's when the information that the person gives becomes questionable. And I will get into that. All right. Oh, that's Jennifer says, just like the guy in your book, Pat, only the truth. Yeah. That is true. He was interrogated in the book. My book that's a fiction book, and he actually is a fairly low IQ fellow, just lack of education, living alone, and he's easily easily led into saying things. So yeah, you're right. So everybody buy the book, Only the Truth, $2.99. Well, thank you for the advertising moment. Okay, now let's get to this case and the suspects in the case. So we got the kid goes missing. All right, and it's pretty horrific. First of all, one of the things we always get in the beginning is sort of a people are upset with the parents for allowing a 6-year-old to walk 2 blocks in New York City to the school bus. And, that is a matter of opinion on that. Would I have done that? No, because I would not. And certainly on the first day he walked by himself, I would actually be like watching him the whole way. But she saw him walk 1 block, and for whatever reasons, she went inside and got distracted. And she forever feels guilty about that. So in the comments below, let's just skip all the, pointing fingers at their parents for making the choice to let the kid walk. Do they wish they hadn't done it? Absolutely. Absolutely. But, a lot of times people don't expect something bad to happen, especially in 1 block. You know what I mean? It's not like you let the kid walk across the whole city. Yeah, it looks like a busy city to me. I would be uncomfortable letting he's not a big kid, walk through the city like that by himself. But that's me. And, and she was nervous about it. But once I guess she saw him go halfway, and she's like, okay, he's good. And she wishes she hadn't done it. So let's just get away from that. The parents were looked at properly by the police as suspects and cleared. And there is really no reason to believe they were involved. Extremely sad case. Seemed like a very happy kid, very good family. So that's just not an issue. So we can push that aside. The child was abducted. The child was, for a long time, they kept him as still, they didn't say he was dead for many, many years. And of course, the parents hoped that he would somehow show up again. He finally was declared dead. This was mostly for the purposes of a civil suit against this Ramos guy. So he was declared dead, and it is believed he's dead. So, and that he died that day or soon after. So, yeah. So we kind of know what the heck happened. Yeah, well, it was a different time too, because what year was that again? Let me go back and look again. It was 1979. Okay. In 1979, I was an adult. But before that, I did walk to school every day and walk home for lunch and walk back to school and walk home after that when I was 6 years old. I went through people's yards. I went through the woods. My parents didn't think anything of it. So there was a time when it just was, you didn't have that kind of fear. And this kind of instilled it in everybody. So it sucks from there on out. Really, really sad. All right. So let's see what happened. All right. So he disappears. All right. Decades later, it was determined that Patz had been abducted and murdered the same day he went missing. Now, let me back up a little because they're jumping ahead here. All right. So here's what happened on the morning of his disappearance. On May 25th, 1979, Etan left his Soho apartment by himself for the first time, planning to walk 2 blocks to board the school bus at West Broadway and Prince Street. He was wearing a future flight captain pilot cap. And this is important what he was wearing. A future flight captain pilot cap, a blue corduroy jacket, blue jeans, and blue sneakers with fluorescent stripes. He never got on the bus. Now, originally, when I first read this, I thought he was taking a public bus to school and maybe nobody would notice him. This was a school bus and it was a school bus stop. I cannot find, there's a lot of very limited information on this case as far as the original investigation went. And there's things that I don't understand why nobody's talked about. This is what drives me crazy about the case. It's like, why didn't somebody say this about the case? Like, I want to know how many children were at that bus stop. 0, except for Etan? Was he the only kid who got on at that bus stop? Or were there more children at that bus stop? I don't know. because I can't find it for some reason. If you do, let me know. Put it in the comments below, because that's driving me nuts. Because it would be important to know as an investigator whether there were a bunch of kids at the stop who should recognize Etan when he stands there with them. And they should say, yeah, well, Etan was at the bus stop, or they should say he never got to the bus stop. Now, what's important about this whole issue about him and the bus stop is this. Let's take a look at that picture, that map again. Map is super important. Again, here he is. Here he's walking. He's walking, he's walking, he's walking. This is the 2 blocks. This is the bus stop, okay? And this is the bodega where he wanted to get a drink. Now, if he went and stood here on the bus stop and there were other children, they should have seen him at the bus stop. If he passed the bus stop, probably they should have seen him too. So the question is, did nobody see him arrive at the bus stop? And I can't seem to get a clear, nobody did see him, but I don't know who was out there. Were there other kids who knew? If it's a school bus stop, kids should know him. But then again, I don't know how New York City bus stops work for schools. Are many, many children the only child that gets on the bus at that stop? That's a question I have. And this would also be, I think, for a parent, I would be more comfortable that my child walked these 2 blocks, knowing that he was going to arrive at a bus stop with 3 or 4 other children that he knew, rather than he's going to walk up here and then stand there by his lonesome waiting for the bus. Another thing I don't know is how long from the time he left here, I can't seem to get that exact information, from the time the bus should have arrived, because that's important. Because how much time passed? If he's walking up here, when does his mother have him leave the house? Like with an extra 10 minutes to spare, with an extra 15 minutes to spare, with 5 minutes to spare? Supposedly he's going to take his dollar and go to the bodega and buy a soda to take to school with him. Well, if he did that, he had enough time to spare to go to the bodega, go in there, buy the soda, and come back out to the bus stop. So I'm going to say he wasn't like running to the bus stop with 30 seconds left. He had to have extra time. And that to me is also interesting. And I don't have that info because it doesn't seem to exist. But I think it's really important. All right. So now let's look at what it says further. And he's wearing an interesting outfit, which to me, with that hat and everything, somebody would theoretically remember the kid, but nobody says they saw him. And he says he never got on the bus. And that is true because, get this one. This is appalling. At school, Etan's teacher noticed his absence, but did not report it to the principal. Excuse me, but isn't that what you're supposed to do? When Etan did not return home after school, his mother, Julie, called the police. At first, detectives considered the Patzes to be possible suspects, but quickly determined they had no involvement. An intense search began that evening using nearly 100 police officers and a team of bloodhounds. The search continued for weeks. Neighbors and police canvassed the city and placed missing child posters featuring Etan's portrait, but this resulted in few leads. Now, this is interesting to me. 100 police officers by evening were all over here with bloodhounds. Nothing. Okay, and this is going to again be important when we come to the suspect that was convicted, and also just where was the kid? I don't have good information on what the bloodhounds followed, or they say nothing more about this. I don't know what happened to those bloodhounds. I really don't understand it. All right, so now the first guy. Let's talk about the first suspect. That would be Jose Ramos. Some people say Ramos, but I'm assuming it's Spanish name, so it should be Ramos. So I'm going to say Ramos. All right. So this guy. All right. Let's talk about this creep. This guy here. All right. Now, this guy became a suspect for a really, really good reason. In 1985, this is 6 years later, because this case went cold. They had nobody. And I also am concerned that it didn't seem like they interviewed enough people right there. They didn't interview the bodega people very well. They didn't interview people that were associated with the family or with the dollar bill that the kid got. They didn't seem to really properly interview. I don't understand what happened. And there's still not a clear answer, because when they went back to review the case years later, they said that the notes were, confusing. All right. So anyway, in 1985, this guy, and his name is Jose Antonio Ramos, a convicted child sexual abuser. That's one of the pictures of him, one of the kids, who had been a friend. This is what gets interesting. They brought him in on other things, but then when they asked him, because he was apparently around that neighborhood, they asked him a few questions about Etan Patz, and turned out that he had been a friend of Etan's former babysitter. Yeah, that's a pretty interesting thing, isn't it? And so anyway, he says here, Susan used to take care of him, Susan Harrington. So the girl he was hooking up with lived in the area, and she was babysitting the kid, Etan. And not only that, there was a bus strike, and she walked Etan from his house to the school. He knew. He later claims that he didn't really know what the kid looked like and all that, but yeah. Then there was some issue about him maybe actually seeing the kid at the park as well. So I'm going to say he knew Etan Patz. And he also, the girlfriend had a son, and he sexually assaulted the girlfriend's son, along with a whole bunch of other boys. Later on, he said, I'm not a total psychopath. I'm not a total pedophile. I'm not a total pedophile. And the police made me laugh. The police goes, is that like being a little bit pregnant? So I'm not a total pedophile. No, yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. They got that. That's a pedophile. He liked little boys, Etan's age. And he got convicted of sexually assaulting little boys of Etan's age. He ran around, he lived actually at the somewhere along. He had an apartment, and he also he had an apartment in the area at one point. He also lived in this tunnel at one point. He's a creepy dude. This is the park. He claimed actually on the day that Etan went missing, he claimed he met a boy named Jimmy in the park, and he took Jimmy back to his apartment and tried something with him, and it didn't go well. So he put Jimmy on the subway. And a lot of the detectives thought that was just words for, I actually took Etan and then killed him, and putting him on the subway meant dispatching him. But who knows? That's kind of fanciful thinking there. But this guy's creepy as hell, and he would lure children with toys and candy and that kind of thing. And he knew Etan Patz. He knew him. So what happened? All right. Police searched the drain pipe. That's the one I just showed you. And found photographs of Ramos and young boys who resembled Etan. Eventually, it was found out that Ramos had been in custody in Pennsylvania in connection with unrelated child molestation case. So then, let's see, they prosecuted a case against him for sexually abusing children, and they tried to get more information about Etan, if he had messed with him. And let's see, yes, Ramos stated that on the day Etan disappeared, he had taken a young boy back to his apartment to rape him. Ramos said that he was 90% sure it was the boy whom he later saw on television. However, Ramos did not use Etan's name. He also claimed he had put the boy on a subway going uptown. So you see, he's actually saying he abducted a boy on the day that Etan disappeared to bring him to an apartment and rape him, and then put the boy on a subway. Was it Etan, or was it a different boy? Or is he just making up a bunch of crap? I don't know. But the fact is, he knew the boy, he knew the area, and he was a pedophile, and he was a child sex predator. So, pretty good suspect. All right, so what happened? In 1991, while Ramos was incarcerated, a jailhouse informant told Grabois, I'm not sure how to pronounce this detective's name, told the detective, an FBI agent, that Ramos had told him he knew what happened to Etan. Well, it's hard to trust a jailhouse snitch, but that's what he said. He also said that Ramos even drew a map of Etan's school bus route, indicating that he knew that Etan's bus stop was the third one on the route. Interesting. All right, so he became the prime suspect for good reason. And he stayed the prime suspect, but they were unable to prosecute him because they didn't have absolute connection from him to the disappearance of Etan Patz. That was the problem. So, and he never said he did it. He didn't confess. He confessed to something similar, but not to Etan, to Jimmy in a park, not Etan and off the street near the bus stop. That's he didn't confess to that. So, at any rate, he denied that he had killed Etan. All right. And he did receive a 20-year prison sentence in Pennsylvania for child molestation. He was released from prison on November 7th, 2012. And after his release, he was arrested on a Megan's Law violation. Now, they had a judgment against him. That was dismissed. Oh, interesting. They did have a 2004 judgment against him, but it was dismissed in 2015. After the trial of Pedro Hernandez convinced them that Ramos was not responsible for the son's death. So I'll talk about the parents and who they think did it. They thought Ramos did it for a really long time until Pedro Hernandez gave his confession to the police and in court and was convicted. And therefore, their parents are pretty sure that that is the guy who did it. Okay, so that's him. That's this guy. But he didn't, at the time, they couldn't come up with anything, so he didn't get arrested. Now let's go to the next suspect. All right, this guy is quite interesting, actually, and very quickly breezed over by pretty much everyone. And I find this rather fascinating. All right, and I'm not going to use his name again. Jamaican dude down the street. That's all called. Okay, so they reopened this case. It was reopened in 2010. What happened was they got some kind of tip. And so they started excavating a Soho apartment that was near the Patz home. Remember let's go back and take a look at this. All right. Child leaves the home, walks here. This is the one block. This is as far as mommy saw him go. Right here is where they started doing the excavation. Now, why did they do that? Well, what happened was apparently soon after this thing happened, I believe that there was a cement poured and a basement made, and then the house was sold. And the guy who lived there, the Jamaican guy, left. They had somebody else living there. So what they did was they started excavating the basement. The residence had been newly refurbished shortly after Etan's disappearance, and the basement had been the workshop and the storage space of a handyman. That was the Jamaican dude. After a 4-day search, investigators announced that there was nothing conclusive found. So they found nothing, so they went, okay, never mind. But let's stop for a minute. And here's my problem with how quickly they dismissed this. All right. This guy was a carpenter. He gave little Etan $1 for helping him with carpentry. Now, my question is this, and I can't seem to find an answer. And again, if you have it, put it in the comments, because sometimes I do research before a show, and I haven't researched for like a year. If I were doing a book on this case, you better believe I'd be hitting up everything I could possibly get a hold of, and maybe I'd be able to get the files and all the police reports, and I'd be putting in 2,000, 3,000 hours, and I'd figure this out. But this is a YouTube channel, and I cannot quite do that much. So I did read a book, the only book. I'll put the link below to the book. Can I do that? I'm trying to think. Yeah, I found it on Scribed for free. So I'm paying for Scribed. So I found that there. So I read it there. But yes, you can get it from Amazon. I thought it was very lengthy and boring. I thought it missed out on a lot of points. So I wasn't in love with the book. Okay, but I'll link it below in case you want to read it. I don't understand this. Okay, the kid's 6. Why is he stopping at this carpenter's shop? Why is he there? How did he get the $1? I don't understand why the mother didn't have some concern about that. He is between the house and and the bus stop. Yes, he might be the nicest guy in the world and have nothing to do with this, although they say he has there's some concerning things about him, supposedly with kids. Anyway, but if I'm the mother, I'm like, first of all, why did he get the dollar? What was he doing there? Was he there alone? Did he help the guy? I don't know. I don't know what he's doing there. Was his mom with him when he helped the guy, like, C6? I don't know, sweep the floor and he gave him $1? I don't know. There's no information on that I can find. Was the kid, he wasn't allowed to walk to the school bus by himself until that day. Was he allowed to run around the neighborhood? I don't understand why he's ending up at this guy's place making $1. I don't get it. So he made the $1 the day before, which means this guy is right there. The next day he goes out. He's got the $1 in his pocket to go buy a drink, and he passes right by this guy's place. He was supposedly never seen at the bus stop. And again, I don't know how many people there would have recognized him, or was it a bunch of kids who would recognize him? I don't understand that. But he's going by this guy's place. It would be very easy for this guy to say, hey, Etan, come in. And Etan, having just got $1 from this guy and having a little extra time, might step into the guy's shop. And that's where it all happened. And the kid disappeared. I don't understand why he's such a minor suspect in this case. They didn't find anything in the basement. Doesn't mean that he buried him in his basement. But again, I don't know if this guy's, I don't know much about this guy, but I just find that dollar issue interesting. And if maybe one day I'll decide to do a real in-depth on this case and find out what the heck is going on with the dollar. But if you know, put it below. Anyway, so he's got the dollar. And so they didn't find anything. So they're like, okay, whatever, not that guy. They dumped it. Then, all right. So now that guy is not being looked at any longer. Here is okay. So then we go to, all right, let's go to the guy that got convicted. All right. Now, the guy that got convicted. Let me find him here. All right. So in 2012, wait a minute, hold on a second. All right, wait a minute, I gotta go back here. All right, in 2012, they announced that a man in custody who had implicated himself in Etan's disappearance. This is Hernandez. A law enforcement official identified the man as 51-year-old Pedro Hernandez of Mapleshade, New Jersey, and said that Hernandez had confessed to strangling the child. Hernandez stated in his written confession to the police, "I'm sorry, I choke him," but they choke. Okay. According to a 2009 book about the case, After Etan, and that's the one, After Etan, that's linked below. It said that he had $1 and had told his parents that he planned to buy a soda to drink with his lunch. Now, again, I have a question here. How often has this child gone into the bodega by himself to purchase things? Has his mother gone with him? Has she shown him how to purchase things in a store? He's 6. I don't have any information on that again. He supposedly told his mother he wanted to buy a soda with the $1. And she's like, okay, go ahead. But she would also know that in order to do that, he would have to go to the bodega before he got on the bus. So he'd have to have enough time to cross over the bus stop, go to the bodega, and come back to the bus stop. Okay, keep that in mind. All right, so now, at the time of Etan's disappearance, Hernandez was an 18-year-old convenience store worker in the neighborhood bodega. And let me show again. Let me put where's my picture of him when he's 18? Oh, I thought I had that. Okay, where's the 18-year-old? I always wanted to show you what he looked like when he was 18, because we see the bald dude, but that's 30 years later, so it doesn't look like that anymore. I mean, at the time, he didn't look like that. Let me see. Hold on a second. Oh, no, I misplaced his 18-year-old look. But anyway, I do have him in a video here, so, but that's, again, later. Okay, anyway, he looked younger. Way younger. All right. So he was an 18-year-old. So supposedly he's working at the bodega. Hernandez said later that he threw Etan's remains into the garbage. That's actually not true. So Wikipedia doesn't have that correct. Hernandez was charged with second-degree murder. According to a New York Times report, the police at that time had no physical evidence to corroborate his confession, and they never did have any physical evidence. Etan's body has never been found. His backpack has never been found. His clothing has never been found. Nothing has ever been found that you could say is connected to Hernandez, other than his confession. So we're going to rely heavily on the confession to see whether he is more likely the guy than the other two guys. All right. So now let me go to the statements he made. What Benny said was correct. They did do 6 hours of interrogation with him without video. And then they said, let's go back over your story. And that they videotaped. And that is a suspect right there, because you never know what they said in those 6 hours to encourage him to say things. However, one of the reasons people in the jury was leaning toward him being the guy was that supposedly after the incident, the disappearance of Etan Patz, he supposedly had said to somebody that he had hurt a child. And then he said to a bunch of people at a church group that he had hurt a child. He never said he killed a child. He didn't say it was Etan Patz. He just made those comments. Did he make those comments out of guilt that he did do it? Or did he make those comments for some weird reason because the guy had psych problems? Because he did appear to have psych problems, like schizophrenia, hearing voices, visions, stuff like that. But that, because it wasn't just during the interview with the police that he said these things, that he had said them earlier, people said, okay, well, he said it then, and then he said it then, and now he says it here. And then he said it in court again. It was on the stand in court, and he confessed in court on the stand. One thing I want to point out about the time he confessed, now I can't find out good information on this either, but apparently his personal life was a wreck, and he supposedly was HIV positive at a time when it wasn't good to be HIV positive, shall we say. I still can't find out if he's alive or dead. I don't know. But, he was supposedly ill, and that's another time when you might confess because you don't think you have much time left, or you still want attention. And that's the problem. Is it attention getting? Is it confusion? Is it imagination? Because a lot of people confess to crimes they did not commit. And they will stick to those confessions, even though they didn't commit them. Maybe it's because they got nothing else going for them. I don't know. It's hard to understand these people, why they do it, but it happens all the time. So the question comes down to, is compared to Ramos, who knew Etan Patz and knew the area and could easily have seen him and grabbed him. Is that possible? Or is it more possible the carpenter here who gave him the buck the day before, just called him over into a shop, and that's what happened, and he never got to the bus stop? Or did he get up here and run into the front of the guy at the bodega, which is Hernandez, which is most likely? And so I have to go to the Hernandez confession to analyze whether I think Hernandez is likely telling the truth or not likely telling the truth. Okay? And this is where it gets kind of complicated, but I think very interesting, and where I would be if I were on the jury. Okay? I might as well state that now. If I were on the jury, it was, by the way, there are two trials. The first trial, he was found, it was a hung jury, and so there was one guy held out. The other 11 said he was guilty, and the one guy held out. And his claim was that this guy's got low IQ. I just don't know that I can believe his confession is accurate. And also there's no physical evidence. And so he held out. Then finally it was retried, and they got 12 different jurors, and those 12 jurors found him guilty, and he was convicted. Okay? Where do I stand? I stand with the one holdout. And, I rarely do this. So people are like, whoa, really? Yes, I do. I stand with the one holdout. I would not have found Ramos guilty. Okay? Because I do have reasonable doubt. I can't say he absolutely didn't do it, but I have reasonable doubt. Let me show you why I have reasonable doubt. So I'm going to actually go through, I think I actually want to go through his entire, his, his confession. I took it's not his entire confession. I took screenshots of the things I thought were most important. And so I will go to those screenshots and I will read them to you. And then I will explain why I think they're interesting. All right. So here he is. He's being interrogated. All right. Here goes the interrogation. So you saw him in the store. You never saw him before? And he says, no, I never seen the kid before, which is interesting because he supposedly worked at the store for a year. And there was some supposed information that the kid had been to the store. And you would think if the kid were going to go into the store with that dollar bill, he had been there before because his mother would know that he could go, know how to get the drink and go to the counter. You would think they knew the store. And yet he says he never, he wasn't familiar with that, the kid at all. All right. And you did see him. Okay. You saw Etan. How long was he standing there before you said something to him? Okay. Now, this is important here. In the interview, he says he was waiting for the school bus. Okay. This is an important one. He was waiting for the school bus. Okay. I have two problems right away. Does anybody know what my two problems are with the waiting for the school bus? And he was there for 5 minutes waiting for the school bus before this guy supposedly lured him with offering him a soda. Okay. The next thing he did was offer him a soda. And then the kid supposedly followed him down into one of those, when you go down, let me show you a picture. One of these things. This is basically what he went down into. So where's it? This one. One of these things. Yeah, this one. That one. No, maybe let's go with this one. Sorry, lots of them. Okay, basically this one. So it's not the exact place, but it's one of those places where you go. There's a cellar down there, and you can take when the truck pulls up, you can bring things down into the storage area. So supposedly from the corner, he got the kid to follow him. He just said, "You want a soda? You want something to drink?" He didn't say soda. You want something to drink? And Etan supposedly nodded his head and followed him down into the ground, into the cellar where he said he kept. There was like a refrigerator down there with sodas in it, but he didn't say that to Etan. So Etan just supposedly followed him down there, and I'll get to what happened supposedly when he got down there. But the first problem I have with is he was waiting for the school bus, and supposedly he was there for 5 minutes before this guy said to him, "Would you like something to drink?" and did the lure. Okay, what do you see as a problem there? Let's see if any of you catch this. Okay, let's see. Gretchen says, no one reported seeing him at the bus stop. So 5 minutes is a long time for him to be standing there without being seen. I had that problem, yes. Now, again, were there other children at the bus stop? Because this was a school bus stop. So possibly people were just passing by and didn't notice a kid standing there at the bus stop. But if it was a school bus stop, again, were there other kids? Did no one see him? Later, when the police came looking for him and said, "Hey, did anybody see him at that bus stop area?" And no one saw that kid. Yeah, I find that odd. Let's see. Anybody else see one other thing that is really peculiar about this? About he's standing at the bus stop for 5 minutes. And Hernandez comes and says, "Would you like something to drink?" You would, but again, I don't know. It's a city school bus stop. So I mean, there are places out in the suburbs where I am where there's just one kid at the bus stop, and then the next bus stop has 5 kids. But maybe they just pull in front of a kid's house. In the city, maybe they do every block or wherever the kids are, they stop. I don't know how that works. Okay, let's see what you have to say, Molly. How did he know he was waiting on the bus? He must have talked to him in the past or knew his habits by watching him a lot. Plus, he knew how long 5 minutes was. He had watched him wait in the past. Interesting thought. Well, I don't know if you saw a kid standing there at a place where, if you've worked there, you would see buses go by. You would have thought you would have seen this kid before, but he saw him standing there for a while. Okay, that's interesting. Would the little boy be afraid that he would miss his bus? I don't know how good he is with time. He's waiting there for 5 minutes, and then this guy says, "Hey, come with me." Basically says, "You want to drink?" And then the kid follows him away from the bus stop and down into a basement. I mean, kids are impressionable, so it's possible. But yeah, you'd think he'd worry about missing the bus. You would think that might be an issue. Was it his first time alone? It was his first time alone. And I find it weird that nobody talks about how many kids should be on the bus stop. Like mom says, "Hey, I let him walk up there," but even though he always got picked up by himself, I don't see that information. Maybe it's out there. I just can't find it. I didn't find it in the book either, which I thought was really weird. But here, think about the dollar bill. What's the problem with him standing on the bus stop for 5 minutes when he has the dollar bill? What problem do I have with that? What do you think the issue that is like bugging me about him on the bus stop with a dollar bill? Oh, there we go. Grandma Tat, good for you. I thought he had already bought a drink before going to the bus stop. Well, that's an interesting point. So there's two possibilities. One is if he was going to buy the drink, he wouldn't stand at the bus stop. He would pass the bus stop, go straight to the bodega, buy the drink, and then go back to the bus stop. So either he already had the soda in his hand, in which case Fernandez saying, to ask if he wanted a drink, he would have already got one. Secondly, if he didn't have the drink, why not? Because if his whole thing was to spend the dollar in the bodega to get the drink, why is he standing on a bus stop for 5 minutes and not getting a drink? So I have problems. Yes, he had the money so he could buy the dang drink. Exactly. Let's see. Maybe his mom talked to Ramos. Oh, well, we're talking about Fernandez, not Ramos. Ramos, well, they don't know where he is. Yeah. I don't quite understand that, but yeah, he should have either been in the store buying the drink or not have gotten to the store yet. But that he would be standing on the bus stop for 5 minutes with no drink in his hand or go with somebody for a drink when he already had one makes zero sense. So this is a big red flag to me in the confession. I'm like, that does not make sense. So I have a real problem with that. Wouldn't you want to buy the drink after school and not before? Supposedly, I was under the impression he was buying the drink to take to school with him. That's at least what I read. Maybe I read something wrong in that. So that is an interesting point. That he was, I don't know if he's, well, no, I thought it was on the way to school. I'm pretty sure that was the whole idea, that he could get the drink and take it to school with him, and have it with his lunch. That was my impression. Yeah. But he's always on. So he's supposed to be on the bus stop for 5 minutes. Now, here's the other thing I think is interesting. He offers him, he says, "Do you want something to drink?" Now, there's a lot of things you offer kids. To tell you the truth, most child predators will offer a kid candy, not a drink. That's usually the big go-to. Want some candy? So I find it interesting that he said asked him if he wanted a drink, which makes me think he got that idea from hearing that the boy had $1 to go buy a drink. So in other words, once you've heard the news, if you're going to fabricate a confession, you build on the news that you heard. And since he was supposed to get a drink, he's saying, I offered him a drink. So I have a theory that that's where that came from, not from an actual happening. I think that's just a little strange. Yeah. So I don't buy that story. Okay. Now the next thing he says, let's go. let's see the next thing. Okay, so let me go here. Okay, and he was supposed to. Also this. Okay, here's something too. There he was in front of the store. The school bus stop, as far as I know, wasn't in front of the store. It was before you get to the store. So I'm not sure how that worked out either. So I approached him and asked him if he wanted something to drink. I went down to the basement and he followed me to the basement. Okay, so here he goes. Here, he's there. Now this kid's behind him. Now the guy's going down the steps and he's going down the steps. And then get this. When he gets down to the bottom of the steps, Etan supposedly goes by him. Etan, sorry. So it's hard to pronounce that name properly. Etan goes by him. And he attacks Etan from behind and puts his hands around his neck. Now, usually if you're following somebody to some place, an adult, you don't run ahead of them when you don't know where you're going. Or why would you do that? You're following the guy. He's going to take you down there. He's going to then open up something, pull out a drink, and hand it to you. Why is suddenly Etan in front of him? Makes no sense to me. So that's another big red flag. Then he says he started choking him. He says I choked him as something that happened like really quickly. So for no reason whatsoever, he chokes him. Now, mind you, there are many who think, and this is reasonable, that this is a watered down story. In other words, he was really sexually assaulted and he just doesn't want to admit it. So he's just going to say, I choked him, I don't know why. And he's leaving out the sexual assault. That does make more sense to me because I don't believe he's going to choke the kid for no reason. There would be sexual assault. And he says, I don't know what happened. Let's see the next thing. Oh, I never saw his face, he says. No, yeah, you did, because supposedly you looked him in the face and said, do you want a drink? So now he's changed his story. I never saw his face. He went down the stairs and he was, okay, so they're asking him now. He went down the stairs, he was behind you, right? And then he goes, and then he went in front of me and I stood up behind him. And then, let's see. And then I started strangling him and I was shaking. He claims that when he strangled the boy offered zero defense. He didn't fight back. He just collapsed. That's what he's claiming. I believe I have that. Let's see, that one statement he made here. Yeah. So we went together. So yeah. So here's he's showing. I choked him. I went behind him, and then he just shows how he just collapsed. No struggle at all, which again is a wee bit suspicious. All right. Then he realized he'd killed the kid. So supposedly, now this is all happening in very early in the morning, right? Before school. And then he says he put him inside a bag. He doesn't know where the bag came from, but he put him inside a bag. All right, let's take a look at the size of this kid for just a second. All right, here's the kid. He is 40 inches. Okay, what is that? He's not a big kid or anything. So he's 3'4". He's a little tyke. Weighs 50 pounds. All right, I want to point this out mostly because I want to say he's not an infant. He's not a 1-year-old. He's a 6-year-old. Somehow there's a bag there, and he stuffed the kid in a bag. All right. Then he ties the bag up so the kid's stuck in there and can't breathe. Then I put him in, a box. He claims it was a banana box or something like that. He doesn't remember. Now, here's where I would want to find out from the owner of that shop, what do you call banana box? Like, how big is the banana box? What is the banana box made of? Is a banana box, is it cardboard with bananas in it? Is it some kind of wood slats? What the heck is this thing? Because the boy does weigh 50 pounds. And I know, have you ever done this? You get a box and you put something in it and you close it up, you pick up the box, and if whatever you have falls right through the bottom because the bottom is not strong enough to hold that weight. How strong is the bottom of this box? And how is a 50-pound kid going in this box and not coming through it? How does he fit in the box? I don't know. So supposedly he puts him in a bag, puts him in a banana box, doesn't tape it up or anything. And then he says, he says it's a cardboard box. I just don't buy that a cardboard box is going to hold the weight of a 50-pound boy. I just don't buy that at all. Okay, so now he's got to get him out of the building. This is daylight. He's not waiting till night. It's daylight. He says he picks up the box and puts it on his shoulder. Okay, I don't know. I have to defer to you guys here. I know you're all strong and can pick up a 50-pound, I've picked up 50-pound bag of feed for animal feed, and I think I might have put it on my shoulder, but this is an awkward box with a 50-pound kid in it who might be like rolling around. How the hell do you put that on your shoulder and carry it out there? Does one of you guys want to tell me if that sounds like very possible for you to do? While I'm waiting on that, let me see what you have to say about a few other things. Well, no, all customers do not go into the cellar for a pop. No, but the kid might, because he might think that's where the pop is. So, obviously you would think he'd know you should go into a store to buy it. But here's a guy from the store saying, come, you want a drink, follow me. And so it is possible he could do that. So could be. This is interesting. Marie says the guy just seems to be guessing what the police wants to hear. Well, that is the question. Is he just, the police say, what did you do next? And he's making up something he did next, which to me isn't a very good story. I'm having a few bit issues. What are pounds and kilo? Okay, a pound is 2.2 kilos. Is that right? Come on, get out your phone and I don't know. I don't. Oh my God, 7 No, it's not under 7 kilogram. No. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, I'm going to help you guys out here. Wait a minute. I got the phone. All right, let's see about the kilo issue. Okay, pounds to kilos. That's what you got to do. Pounds to kilos. All right, let's see. Because it's a good thing to know, because I want you to be able to estimate this. Pounds to kilos. Okay. All right. Pounds, not that kind of pounds. Okay. All right. So we have 50 pound. Oh, no, what is it doing? Okay. Oh, that is right. Okay. 50 pounds, 22 kilograms, or 22.6 kilograms, 22. So 22. Does that help you out here? I always liked it when I went to Denmark. I loved being half my weight. I was like, oh, look, I've lost weight. Not true. Yes, this is a good point. The bodega owner is Hernandez's brother-in-law. Yes, they did talk to him and say, hey, did you see anything weird? He's like, did anybody say anything in here? And apparently he didn't rat him out or anything. So, not necessarily they liked the guy or thought the guy was, brilliant or whatever, or he didn't think he was a child molester. I don't know. I don't know what he thought of him. So can you carry if you want to go 22 kilos, 50-pound kid who's, that's not a stable box, in a cardboard box on your shoulder. The story sucks to me. That part I'm just really I have a bit of trouble with. But could it be done? I don't know. I'm not a guy. I certainly couldn't have done it. I would think of it a very awkward carry. So anyway, he carries him out supposedly in the middle of the day. He also says that people followed him out of the basement. What? People follow? Who's following you out of the basement? Because didn't you have the kid? Wasn't the kid dead? It gets really, really sketchy here. Then he says he took the kid out of the basement, so he had to go up the steps, right? Away from there, and he went about a block and a half away from the store. Okay. Lifting the box would be more difficult than carrying it, I would think. Really? Interesting. All right. Okay. Ann has a good point here. Ann, was the soda store on the same side of the street as the bus stop? I believe so. Let me look at the picture. There's really, really crappy information on this case as far as real clarity goes. Sometimes that's what's really frustrating. Okay, let's see. A corner of, I gotta look it up. Let me look at the big picture for myself here. The big picture says, I would say it's on the same side. Yeah, it looks like it's on the same side, because I would assume that he has to stand on that side of the street. And he might be right actually on the corner. See where that little dot is? That could be where the bus picks him up, right there, where the store is right there. So, yeah. I guess you could call that in front of the store. So let me give Hernandez a break. When he says he was in front of the store, yes, he could be standing in front of the store at the bus stop. So the way the store is actually sitting there was also very confusing. But yes, he could be standing in front of the bus stop, on the bus stop in front of the store for 5 minutes. But why, if he was going to go get that drink, didn't he just go into the store and buy the darn drink and come back out and stand on the bus stop? So that to me is that really bothers me. Questionable stuff. Okay, so now he carries the kid. Okay, so the guy's here supposedly. So somewhere around, I think it's around here, that place kid would have gone down into, and then he said, "Where's Broadway?" So it goes a block and a half away. He claims carrying this box in broad daylight, a block and a half away, and I can't quite tell which direction it is where Broadway went to. So he's carrying. I don't know how he even gets a box on his shoulder with a 50-pound kid in it. But anyway. So he's carrying the kid in a box that the bottom isn't falling out of, a block and a half to some other location. Now, the police believe this is the proof that he actually was telling the truth. So he went to this other location, another open, open thing in the sidewalk, which goes down into what he called was a hallway. He said he carried the box down there and dumped the box in the hallway, okay, and left that box there. And then supposedly it just vanished from that hallway. So he claimed that I guess the garbage guys would have come along, and would they go down into there to pick up garbage? That seems weird to me. So somebody down there, in my opinion, would have to pick up the box and carry it up the stairs. And wouldn't they wonder, if it wasn't their box, what the hell weighed that much in a box? That whole thing just makes no sense to me. When did they put this box out for the garbage guys to come? That doesn't make any sense to me. One of the things they said, that the police, was that when they went to look at this thing, there was now a door. It wasn't completely open anymore. There's a door to that hallway. And he said, oh, there wasn't a door there before. And so therefore, he knew that information, and that proved that he put the body down there. I don't know that proves anything. I don't know what this guy's doing for a year working for that place. I don't know if is he a scavenger? Does he go into, find open places and go down in there and look around, and he just knew the place? It doesn't prove that he put the body there. And again, that somebody would then pick up this 50-pound box, because, you might want to look in and see, hey, what's in the 50-pound box I didn't put there? Is something like something good in there? Before you pick that box up, put it out there for the trash people to pick up. So this whole story is really, sketchy as hell. Let me see what else he says I thought was a little off. Okay, so let's see. So he puts the box somewhere. All right. So he's in the box. He also claims he didn't think the kid was dead at the time, so that he was sort of suffocated inside the bag in the box. So he carried him out of the store. Okay. There were people following me from the basement. He says that. And it's really, I'm going to put on the link to the actual confession for you. And you'll find it's really weird. It's like, it's not normal. Something's wrong with his whole thinking process, which leads me to believe there is something wrong with him. All the people that were there at the same time with him when he was there. So what? He killed the kid in front of other people, and then they followed him out. Who the heck else is in the basement? I thought his brother-in-law ran the place. So maybe I would think it's a small bodega. It would be brother-in-law upstairs and him just bringing stuff upstairs to them stock the shelves with. Who are all these other people? So anyway, so they followed me out for no reason whatsoever. And I put them on like a block and a half away, in the basement of a hallway. And I walked back to the store and I started working just like nothing had happened. Okay. Then he says, okay, hold on a second here. Then he's saying the kid never resisted. I'm using the subtitles here, but the subtitles are really badly written, so you have to kind of guess what he actually was saying, because that's not, there weren't, he didn't make any sounds when he choked him, and his hands, when he was choking him, his hands stayed by his side. He didn't try to do this. He didn't flail at the guy. He just let the guy choke him quietly to death. Okay. All right. And then he said, let's see what else he said. He didn't, in other words, the kid didn't react at all. So he says, I don't know who took the bag. I don't know who took the box and put it out and got rid of it. I don't know anything. He says, I don't know anything. Somebody just took that box. Somebody must have took it. Somebody must know something. Okay. I don't know nothing. Then he heard the news. He went back to work and heard the news. He says, and he's sorry about that. And then he says, he actually says he doesn't feel like he did anything wrong. So, then he said he had a book bag, and he claimed the book bag had one strap. Now, I don't know if it did or it didn't. I can't find that information. Again, I can't find that information. What would it really have one strap on it? Because usually with a kid, you want to make sure that he's balanced there, but he claims it was one strap. That doesn't mean, again, he killed the kid. He could have seen the kid with one strap and just that's what he saw. But then he says when he's down in that basement after he chokes the kid and the kid drops on the floor, he takes the backpack and throws it over what did he throw it over? A freezer, a refrigerator. He threw it behind something in the downstairs. No one has ever found that backpack. He didn't say he went back and got rid of it. So that backpack with his name in it probably and the books that were in there should be there. So when somebody was cleaning up, they should have found it and said, oh my God, this is Etan Patz's backpack. That's never been mentioned. I don't know. Did the police, when they were investigating, did they ever go down in that cellar? I can't find that information out either. It's very annoying. So yeah, I'm going to say that's a pretty pitiful confession. And it was accepted by the family. They finally decided the other guy didn't do it and that this guy did. And I think that, and this is the father now aged many years. He was thankful. He finally found out who killed his son. And I would say if you had the choice between thinking it was that creepy dude Ramos, who undoubtedly would have sexually assaulted and murdered his son and tortured him, he would prefer to think it's this Pedro Hernandez who says he didn't do any such thing, that he just strangled the kid really quickly and the kid didn't even have any reaction. So essentially the child just went to sleep. So if you're a parent, would you rather think your child went to sleep or that your child was raped and tortured? Which one would you prefer? I'm going to say you're going to go with Hernandez and think that's relieving. The guy's crazy. It was like getting hit by lightning. The guy didn't mean to do it. He didn't know what he was doing. He just did it because he was crazy. And therefore it's horrible, but it's like getting hit by a truck. It wasn't a child sex predator who took your child and did something horrible to it. So I would say, I see why Dad goes with that. But I am a little concerned that 11 people on the first jury and 12 people on the second jury thought that there was enough to convict Pedro Hernandez, when I don't see any of that. I think his confession is pitiful. It has so many contradictions, things that don't make any sense. He's very vague about everything, like he's almost in a dream kind of sequence on it. And there's no evidence that he ever harmed another child. So if I were going to pick somebody, I would pick one of the other two before I pick Hernandez. Certainly Ramos is just a total child sex predator, and he knew the area, and the kid could have been walking and he could say, hey, come here, kid. I'll take you to school. I don't know. I don't know what he would have done to get because I don't know that he had a vehicle at that time. So I don't know how he'd get the kid off the street to someplace if the kid thinks he's got to go to school. So that's the only problem I have with Ramos, is that I could believe that he would be in the area, but he only had like a block to work with. And could he have lured the child away in that block and had a place to take him to, that he would not object, because he's supposed to be his first time walking to the school bus. He should be excited about that, and no, I got to go to the school bus. I got to get my soda. So I don't know. I'm Ramos definitely looks like the right guy to have done it, but I just don't know if he was there. The Jamaican fellow who gave him the buck and has some questionable issues, supposedly with some children issues. Is he just the guy? Because he actually, that location, just, this is where he's seen. And this is where he's not seen again. He's not seen at the bus stop. Except the only person who sees him is supposedly Hernandez, but nobody else seems to have seen him. So one would think whatever happened here. And that's where the guy was, the carpenter guy with the buck, the dollar that he gave the kid. And he could definitely tell the kid to step into his place again. I'll give you another $1. Hey, you walking to school by yourself? Yeah, I'm going to go get myself a soda. Well, here, let me give you another $1. You can get some candy. And that's the last he's ever seen. I don't know. I can't say who committed this crime. What I can say is I would not have found Pedro Hernandez guilty. I think that was a very poor decision with the juries. I think the problem there was the guy said he did it, and they just felt like if he said he did it, he did it. And that's that, especially when he's on the stand and saying this stuff. I mean, it's compelling. I can understand that, but I don't think they cared that his testimony was even accurate. I think they only cared that he's willing to say that he did it, and that he once said it. Then he said it before to somebody else that he had hurt a child, and that for them was enough. I did a bad thing. That was enough to say, hey, if he said it before to a relative, to some church people, he must have done it. He must be that guy. But, there are guys who have psych problems who, when they hear a story like this, will start telling people that they'll start envisioning themselves in being involved and make up stuff and tell people little hints and stuff. And they'll build a story in their head. I'm not saying that's true. I mean, Hernandez could have done it. I can't say he didn't do it. I just find his story difficult to believe. The 5 minutes at the bus stop, the fact that the kid doesn't have the soda in his hand, the pop that he supposed he was buying, and the fact that no one saw him after here. I just can't go. I would not have convicted him on that confession. I would not have, without some other evidence supporting it, because I've got a pretty good darn suspect here and another one, Ramos, who could be rolling around the area. So I wouldn't have convicted him. So let me go to what you think, because it's a tricky one. And I don't think anybody cares that, Hernandez went to prison that much. I think he ended up mental institution anyway. So, which he probably needed the help. I did want to mention something about the low IQ issue, because this happens a lot when I discuss cases. The 70 IQ, they always say 70 IQ, borderline mentally disabled of some sort, what they used to call retarded, but borderline retarded. I used to work for ARC, which is the Association for Retarded Citizens, which oddly still has ARC in spite of the fact that the word retarded is supposedly a no-no. And let me tell you, they weren't borderline. They were clearly disabled, mentally disabled. There was no question about it. I knew a person that was called retarded when I was working with them. There were other people who were slowish, less educated, not that bright. But they still never acted the same as this group. They were able to make decisions. They were able to drive cars, keep jobs. They didn't need to live in an assisted facility, with a group facility with a facilitator. They didn't have to work at a special place. So they had a lot more ability to be in general society without people thinking anything more than he's kind of a dumb shit, But lots of people aren't like rocket scientists, but that doesn't mean they're not capable. They're just on the slowish side. And they said that it's one of the things that the prosecution actually said was, he got married, he had a kid, he worked. He wasn't that limited. And that's true. But it also, in fact, I do think he suffered from some kind of psychological mental illness. I definitely think that. And the way he talks it's not quite right. So I think he has issues. I think he's got some I think more mental issues than, and then the, that his IQ issues, I don't think are as important as his mental issues. Mental issues can do a lot to your way of communicating with people and functioning in society, and causing you confusion and not being able to understand things and put two and two together. It isn't because you can't figure out it's four. It's just that it's blurry and you get confused. So I don't think necessarily that he had, that 70 IQ prevented him from, but I don't think that's necessarily it. I think that he either did, if he did the crime, I'm going to still say it would be a sexual assault. I would believe that the rest of it's a lie, that he's just downplaying it a lot. So my problem isn't that if he did get the kid into the basement, I'm pretty much assuming it's a sexual assault. The rest of the story is just really, that's where I can't come up with proof that he actually did lure the child and get rid of the body. I just don't have proof of that. And I don't know why. If they had these dogs running around, they weren't cadaver dogs, blood dogs. I don't know why they didn't find anything. So I don't know what's going on with that. They say the information is really questionable. Ariel says, I don't believe he was low IQ. He quit the bodega, moved to New Jersey, quit his job, and filed for disability. Yeah. Grandma Tat says his story has too many holes to me and they don't make sense. Yeah, they don't. Now, mind you, sometimes when people do a confession, they purposely put holes in it, because then you don't believe them. So if you do a confession that is actually accurate all the way through, then people say, oh, well, then you did it. But if you can pretend, oh, I'm going to confess to you, but then your confession is questionable, then they have to think you're lying about doing it. So it can be very clever. If you're clever enough, you can give a confession that is full of holes. I don't think this guy seems to be that clever. That's my thought. Let's see. Aisha says the Hernandez confession scenario is similar to Victoria Martin's case in Albuquerque. I don't know that one. Mom confessed just because she's a people pleaser. Yeah, and it's hard to say why this guy said the things he did. Was it because he had a guilty conscience over the years, or was it because he just said a lot of weird crap? And some people glom onto something and they carry that with them as part of their persona. So, that he decided he was going to be the killer of Etan Patz. Is that what he decided in his head? He's going to be the killer? And that yell, he was outside my store, so therefore I killed him and strangled him. And he took that in his head as part of his identity. Don't know. I think the Carpenters are worth another look. I find that really interesting that he was not like a suspect from day one, because he's right there on the way where the kid goes missing, and he was the dollar bill. He gave it to him. So why wouldn't the kid trust him? How did he not become a major? Did they not? I don't understand it. They didn't need to dig the place up. They needed to examine his place that day with the dogs. They needed to interrogate him, whatever, back then, either to clear him or to say, hey, this is the guy. I don't know what happened in that first police investigation, and I know they had a ton of people out there. So you think they're doing this great job, but I don't know. I'm real suspicious how good the job was. I mean, it's just some things that really don't make a lot of sense. Hold on a second. Wait. Oh, good. I got you. I almost accidentally blocked you. There's these little dots, and when you go to click on things, you click the wrong dot, you kick somebody out of your chat room, and you're like, oops. Didn't the cops check the garbage coming out of that neighborhood for a while? Well, that's an interesting point, because supposedly by the time the parents called and said, hey, the kid's missing, we're talking after school. So now the police are swarming. Wouldn't you think that because this is New York City too, and a lot of people don't have vehicles, it's not like out in the suburbs, you just chuck that kid in a truck and you dump him someplace 30 miles away, right? But in a city, a lot of people don't have that ability. So the child will be found in a basement. The child will be found in a stairwell. The child will be found behind a building in an alley. The child will be found in the trash, okay? You would think that they would have gone through the neighborhoods looking at all the trash, and I'd like to know, I couldn't find that out, when the trash is picked up. I do believe trash is usually picked up in the morning, not the evening. So that meant they had a lot of time to work with. Now, possibly, if Hernandez isn't lying, and he actually took that boy in the box and went down a block and a half and went down into another, I don't know what you even call these things, when you open up from the sidewalk and you go down, and put the kid in the hallway. Is it possible that after the police had gone home for the night or early morning, the owner of that place came through and said, "What's this box doing there?" Picked it up, carried it up the stairs and put it out in the trash, and the trash man did take it away in the morning. I don't know. I don't. I would love to know. If there was any way for me to find out the original investigations on this case, more so than the book, which didn't do a lot for me and left me with just as many questions as when I started reading it, which is frustrating. So I would like to know that. Yes, that would be very good questions. Yeah. Oh, here, I like this one. Yes. Okay, Gretchen, see, this is one that bothers me too. Didn't the parents question why he had the dollar? Well, he did get the dollar from the carpenter dude. So the parents knew he got the dollar from Jamaican guy on the next block. They knew this. All right. My parents would have asked the guy, "Why are you giving my child money?" Now, they may know this guy. I don't know. See, it's possible that this is a guy they've known for a couple of years, and he's a super duper nice guy. I'm not saying there's anything. I don't know anything about this guy, except for I said there was those little suspicious things they said. But anyway, so this guy, I just want to know, when did the kid get the buck? Yeah, the parents should have some suspicions about the location of the guy and the dollar and the kid going by and never being seen again after that block. You would think they would say to the police, "Check out that dude." I mean, how close were they with that? Were they buddies? I mean, you know what I mean? They could have been, he's a carpenter and has a workshop. These people live a block away, and the father's, I forgot, what did she do? I think she took care of some kids. I can't remember now. I've got the right case. Dad did a lot of photography. I don't know if they had any social interaction, whether they were on the same status or they liked each other, had anything in common. Like, who knows? I don't know. Did the carpenter make them something for their house so they got to know him and trust him? I don't know. But I do wonder that, as I always say, sometimes the last thing that happens is the thing that sets off the next thing that happens. Kid gets a dollar from this guy. The next day wants to go spend it and walks right by that guy's place. I don't know how he's not a number one suspect, at least at the time. Now, they may have gone through the place, checked it all out. The dogs found nothing. The dogs didn't go in there. The kid never entered that. No, so there's the tracking dogs didn't go in there. Maybe the place was closed at that time, and he wasn't even there. Maybe he has an alibi on the other side of the city. But the fact that they're digging up the place years later, and they spent 4 days digging up that basement, you got to say, clearly he didn't have an alibi, and he had to still be somehow a suspect for them to go to all that work. But why didn't they do something why wasn't it not happening right away? He should have been a suspect right away. Actually, Hernandez and Hernandez's brother-in-law, Jose, or I think his name, who ran the store, both of them should have been suspects, because the first people you suspect are people who have access to the child right then and there. Not some passerby in the city. And of course, the creepy dude, they may not have even known about him. He was in other words, the woman who walked the kid to school didn't walk him that day. Their family may not have been real aware that she had Ramos as a boyfriend and that he was that creepy and that he was that kind of guy. That was found out later. So I understand why they might not have gone after Ramos. But in my opinion, the two number one suspects, day one, should have been the carpenter and Hernandez, those two. And yeah, why were they not? Don't understand it. I find it very strange. Etan Patz says, "I know that some mental disorders can cause confusion between reality and fantasy." Yes. Maybe he heard about the case and somehow started to believe he committed the crime. And that is very possible. As I said, it does kind of meld the worlds of reality and fantasy. And people can start believing that the same reason they can start believing they're Jesus Christ, or they start believing they're, all kinds of interesting things. I have somebody who emails me constantly, and I've mentioned this before. I think she's up to like 300 emails now. And she believes she is investigating cases, and I'm her partner. She goes, Pat, we have to solve this together. I've just found this out, and I know you're going to do this, and we can do that together. I've never responded, but she's got a whole fantasy world going on there, and she's on the Johnny Gosh case, like you wouldn't believe. She is studying Johnny Gosh, and she's talked to John Walsh. I mean, she's in there in her mind. So would she be a person who could believe she did something to somebody when she didn't do it? Absolutely. And so could, I believe, Hernandez. So a very good point. A very good point. Really? Wait a minute. Hernandez's appeal does state that he admitted to strangling Etan at the church retreat and throwing his body away, not just hurting him. That I had not heard in there. I looked for the appeal and could not find it. Interesting. That does add a little something there. Does that mean that he didn't formalize that thinking early on? And this is the problem. Again, could he be guilty? Yes. But could he also have decided early on, after the kid went missing, that he was responsible and he strangled the kid and threw his body away? Which, once you strangle the kid, you have to throw his body away. And so that's his story. That is his story. The question is, did that actually happen? And there's no physical evidence to prove it did happen. And a lot of the statements he says don't make sense. So the surrounding information doesn't make sense. The story could be true, but again, I think it would be sexual assault in there somewhere as well. But the problem is, is there enough for conviction? I don't think so. Even though I'm usually really gung-ho on convictions. But again, I don't know. I've seen too many people tell stories about, they claim for years they've done some. Let's take a look at Jean Bonnet guy. He claimed the longest time that he kidnapped he attacked that girl, and he stuck with that story. And there's a lot of people who stick with their stories for decades, and they're not true. They didn't do it. So it's tricky. It's really tricky. But I still have a problem with it. Nobody saw him up here. If he was standing around for that long, nobody saw him up here. That's my biggest problem. Oh, do link it. I'd like to see it. I did put in for the appeal, and I didn't come up with it. So not sure why I didn't come up with it, but sometimes it's whatever the Google results are. But I put in that appeal over and over again, and I did not see it. So, and one of the things I know that also here is something I just have to point out. That when you're looking at something, when you talk to people, you can also implant ideas. When investigators go talk to somebody and somebody says, oh yeah, he said he did something to some kid. And then the investigator goes and talks to him and says, well, what did you do to the kid? Did he? And if he's heard a story from somebody else, he can repeat that, or he can say that, suggest that. I don't know when they talk to the church people. So it gets real confusing as to, can you verify that they actually heard that statement at that time? I don't know how many people heard it, and when they spoke of it, and all this stuff. So that's always important. But again, I don't know they didn't come up with the ideation early on and keep it with him. But there was no proof. There's no physical proof that story is true, outside of the mind of the investigators who believe it is and the jury who believe it is. They believe it's true, but again, I mean, you could come up with, if Ramos had said, yeah, I did kill him, he would have gone down, because Ramos at least had, was Ramos? Well, would there have been any more physical evidence for Ramos? We would only simply know he's a child sex predator. Even if you're a child sex predator, it doesn't mean you killed that child. So again, much as you think, God, that guy had to do it. He said he did it. He's a child sex predator, but there's zero physical evidence. Again, do you convict, or do you say, he's a creepy dude and I hate him and I want him to go to prison for 100 years for every child he ever hurt, but do I have proof that he did it to this kid? And I don't know. I find that I'm big on circumstantial stuff. I don't have a problem with putting the circumstantial evidence together and saying there's enough here to convict. I just don't see it in this case. I just don't. I don't see enough to put him away. So if I would like to learn I would like to see if there's any more information from the original investigation that I could, go to really get into, because I find it, some of this just, I feel like I'm missing a ton of information, especially what the parents said in the beginning. And I don't know why their story isn't, I mean, they were in the media. I don't know why their story isn't clear about, what happened, what happened the day before, what happened to the week before. Was there anything strange? Was there anything going on? What was his behavior? Where did he get that? Why did he get that dollar? How was he helping that man? Were you there when he was helping that man? Have you gone to the bodega? How many times have you gone to the bodega? These are the things I want to know, and I don't. And there's a whole bunch of other information I don't know either. But I just don't find his confession enough. I would have found reasonable doubt, and I probably would have said, yeah. I would have been with that one guy that I just don't know. I say it's very possible that guy really is a sex predator, the Hernandez guy, and he could have grabbed that kid, pulled him down there, raped and murdered him. But now he's claiming all he did was strangle him, and the kid kind of fell asleep. I mean, that story is ridiculous. So he's either covering up for what he really did, or he didn't do it at all. But how do we know? That's the problem. How do we know? When he wasn't seen from this point to this point. That's, again, what bothers me. And I would like to know how many people on the street that day, at the bus stop, at the bodega, why did they not see Etan between here and here? And especially if he's standing around up here. I know it's, a lot of times you're busy in the city and you're walking by and you're not going to pay a damn bit of attention. But I would think the day after, people would remember. If they'd walk by a little boy that was standing there, they might remember that. If there are other kids standing there, they would remember that. I don't understand why nobody else saw him on that one stretch. And that's where I have that's where a lot of my reasonable doubt comes in as well. So anyway, I think it's a really interesting case. Maybe I will actually delve into it more one day, because I'd like to get the rest of that information that I was unable to unearth in this week particularly. But I'm glad you were here. I'm glad you gave your opinions on this. And I don't know that we'll ever know. That's one of those things. But this is how I would have investigated the case. And this is why I want to tell you how a profiler would look at this case. And look at the evidence. And what we don't have is evidence. We have a guy who says he threw the backpack behind a piece of, behind an appliance in that room. That backpack was never retrieved from that room that we know of. Why not? Why was his body never discovered between the time the guy supposedly said he put it there in the middle of the early morning? He put that body in a box in the alley. That hallway down there. Nobody said anything about it. Didn't anybody say, hey, I picked up a heavy box and put it outside, but I thought somebody had left. I didn't even know what it was. Nobody said anything about any box in that alley. How could he really have carried the kid in the box without the box falling apart? That doesn't work. So there's so many things that I say there's no evidence to support. That all we have is his very vague confession, which isn't supported by any evidence at all, including the 5 minutes standing at a bus stop without that darn soda in his hand. And that he would know that he should offer a soda and not offer something else. If he said I offered him candy, I would have believed him more than when he said he'd offered him a soda, something to drink. Because I'll tell you the truth, when I see a kid on a bus stop, the last thing I think of is offering him a drink. I would go with a candy. Would you like a cookie? Would you like candy? I would never think of offering a kid at whatever early time in the morning was, do you want a drink? That just seems like to me he took that off the advertising. But again, he could have offered the kid a candy and changed it to a drink later on when he thought that sounded more believable, even though he did kill the kid. See how confusing that can get? But I say I don't see the evidence to support most of his story isn't supportable by evidence or even logic. So either he didn't do it, he made it up, or he did do it, but he's just made up a really weird story about how he did it. So, but Benny says, it's amazing that you can make all this research in a few days. So many details you are discussing, which I have not been able to find. Well, you probably found the other information I can't find. It makes the show extra interesting and professional. Well, thank you. This, again, is an educational channel, not a crime-solving channel. And I say that because somebody will always pop out of the woodwork in the comments and say, well, Pat, didn't you know this? I'm like, no, I'm not writing a book. I didn't see everything that existed in creation. So if I'm doing an educational show, I'm going to miss stuff that I can't find in the research in a reasonable period of time. I'm trying to teach how you think, not this is going to prove something. So I don't know if I found something that you didn't, Benny. I got lucky on that. That's all I can say. And can a confession stand alone as evidence in an American court? Apparently, yes. Usually it doesn't. Usually it's not good enough that the prosecutor even wants to take it to court. But I guess it can. I guess it can. And it did. I mean, they found him guilty. So there you go. And there was zero anything else. So it had to be the confession. Because I haven't even seen, so again, I'm hoping if you find these links, let me know. What kind of backpack was he wearing? Was there any information? See, this is the thing. Did it have one strap or two? If it had two straps and he said one, then again, it's not the truth. But was there a picture of it in the backpack? Did the parents tell the press that he was wearing a backpack with? Let's see. Wait a minute. Let me look here. Hold on a second. Let me go to the thing on him. What was he wearing? All right, a blue cloth bag with elephants imprinted. That's what he was carrying, a blue cloth bag. So that's not a backpack. A bag could have been a one, it could have been a one, just not have, that's where I'm thinking, strap on it. It could just have one strap on it if it's just a blue cloth bag with elephants on it. So, possible. But again, where did he get that information from? Was it from this? Did this information go out to the public and he has borrowed that information? That's the problem. One of the problems with confessions is how much do they already know from public release? Now, the police say the one reason they believe he's telling the truth is the one thing that the public wouldn't have known, which was the door that would have been blocking that hallway that wasn't there at the time. But again, to me, that doesn't prove anything. That guy could just go. I don't know how many times he goes down in different hallways in that area. And why did he pick that hallway? Because, you would have to know that. Because if you're going to get rid of a body, first of all, that's a hell of a long way to walk. New York blocks aren't that. They're not that small. You know what I mean? That's a long way to carry a kid you just killed. You just killed a kid. And in the daylight, you're just going to carry a kid down the block in the daylight in a box? You might drop the box. The kid rolls out. The box bottom falls out. The kid falls out. And then you're walking down and you walk to just turning, walking around the neighborhood. You don't even know where you're going into. Oh, look, there's an open one. I'll go down here and dump the body here. I don't know. And say it's pretty sketchy. That's all I can say. It's pretty sketchy. It wouldn't be enough for me to say he knew something he shouldn't have known. If he, let's say something like this. Let's say that the parents told the police that he was wearing underwear, some underwear, and the underwear had, let me pick out something kind of weird. Roadrunner. Let's go with Roadrunner. Roadrunner, little yellow Roadrunner things on his underwear. And the guy says, well, I took him down to the basement and I took his clothes off and he was wearing little Roadrunner underwear. That's better. That's not in the newspapers. The parents didn't say it to the media. They told the parents, don't say anything about that. And he can identify the kind of underwear the kid was wearing. Now I'm going to say I might go with that because I don't know how else you'd know that. And also, of course, it had to be something different. So in other words, let's say, what color underwear was he wearing? White. And he's wearing white underwear. You go, oh my God, see, you knew. No, that's a good guess, because most underwear is white. If it was something, Mickey Mouse would be the first thing I would guess if I were going to guess some kind of cartoon underwear. I'd go for Mickey Mouse. But if it was something weird that nobody would guess, like, something more unusual that he wouldn't know, in that case, then I'd say, wow, that's pretty good. So it would have to be something, a mark on his body that was not discussed, that he said something that he only that kid would have said, but we don't have that. The kid never spoke. He didn't mention the kid's hat. Why not? What happened to the hat? Because was he wearing a hat? Hold on a second. Let me look at the hat. Oh, he's even got the hat in the picture. Okay, let's see. Black pilot type cap. What's he? I don't know if that's the same hat, but he was wearing a cap. I don't remember the guy ever saying he was wearing a cap. Because, when you strangle somebody, what you're going to look at is a cap. Because you're behind him, supposedly he's got the cap on his head. You're going to see that. And then when he falls to the ground, the cap is going to fall off. Did he say he put the cap in the bag? Did he say threw the cap with that book bag that he claims is a book bag behind the... See, there's this... It's just all over the place, and it's not very accurate. And that's why I have problems with it. Yeah. And now we have great Danish here. So whatever you said, I agree. That's a good point, Ariel. I would not want to prosecute a case this old with the evidence they had. Yeah, it's a very old case, and the evidence is so far gone, that if they can't even find it. So yeah, you're relying on something that has been in the media for so long that, who knows? It's very possible, for example, that, I don't know. Again, I'm looking for the link on what he said to whom. Did he say, I heard a kid as my first statement? Then the second statement, he elaborated and made up something more. See how that goes. And then by the time he comes in 30 some years later, he's got a bigger story. Or did they give him the bigger story? Did they, even the things like he said there was no door there at the time. Did he know that? Or did the police say something to him? Like, was there a door there at the time? And the guy goes, no. Oh, see, he knew something. You see, that's how quickly you can throw the case in the toilet. Because I don't know what they said to him before you supposedly said there was no door there. Because all you have to do is ask a question, and you got a 50-50 chance of being right. And so if they said, was there any door there? And he said no, because there was a door there. Now, maybe the door looked new, when they went down and looked at, they brought him to that location. And then there's a door that looks like it got bought at Home Depot last week. And they say, was that door there then? And he goes, no. Well, how convincing is that? See, this is what we don't know. And this is why sometimes when it gets to court, even then you see a lot of trickery going on there that, oh yeah, see, we proved it was this because of that. And it's not actually so. So be a little wary of that. Yeah. So it's real. That I just thought of that. And I think, wow, I'm gonna have to look up that too, about the door issue. Let's see. Pat, the Danish was just some Christmas references that you wouldn't get in America anyway. We only speak truth and kind things in Danish. I do my one Danish sentence, but it's so pitiful. It is so pitiful. Gosh, I wish I remembered more, but I did get an A in that Danish class I took in Denmark. So only because I was drunk by the time I took the test, but anyway, I'm glad you were here for my pre-holiday weekend show. This will probably, I think I might put this out on Monday. So when the holidays are finished, I'll put it out to the public on Monday. That seems a little bit less terrible So I'll do that. And I'll be back next week, of course, with a hangout. And I got another thing in the works, which I'll probably put out during the week as well. And then I will go on to another suggestion that comes in from my patrons. So anyway, if you're still here at the end of this, please do subscribe to the channel, like, share with your folks. And I'm glad you were all here. That sounds about right. I thought I was drunk. No, I was 23, and I went to take my Danish test, and we had this room. We took our test, and we were waiting there in line to take our turns, and one of the students found a Tuborg stash that the professor had in the closet. So we were drinking it, and I was the last person to be tested. And by that time, the old joke about how Danish, you speak it well if you're frozen or drunk. Well, okay, so I was a little not drinking so well, so I speak really good Danish. That's the only thing I remember. Anyway, so I went in there and they were very impressed. And then I was also able to like when I didn't know the answer, to make a joke and move to something else, and they fell for it. So I got the highest grade in the class. I think if I had gone first, I would have failed. So anyway, thank you very much, Anne. I appreciate that, and everybody else have a good weekend as well. Hi, Martin. Have a great Christmas. Yes, I don't do any shopping. I don't. I just shop for my granddaughter, and that's it. We gave up adult shopping 20 years ago, so I don't have to worry about much, and I'm not cooking either. Okay, thanks to Pat and all the patrons for educating and entertaining me all year. Well, good, and you've been great. You're always fun to have, Martin, so I like having you here. So that's awesome. Most welcome, Aisha. Hope you have a nice holiday season as well. Let's see what else we have here. And many people saying happy holidays. So anyway, I'll see you probably in the middle of the week if you're coming to that hangout. And I'm hoping I don't have to talk about either. Well, unless there's great news that would end the cases of Idaho and Delphi. I'm trying to avoid talking about them because I like to speak on something else. But every once in a while, there's something comes along and I feel like, I've got to say something. So then I do. But maybe this week it won't be there. So I'll be talking about something else. So I'll see you then. Bye.